Okay, so let us kick off the June Mount Lebanon Resiliency Board meeting. Let's start with roll call, please. I'm Lynn Lindley.
Chet Wade.
Justin Metz. Greg Wharton, staff.
Bill Nicius.
Sean Ronald.
Jeff Ziegler.
Eric Milliron, staff.
Okay, let's move on to meeting minutes from last meeting. Anyone make a motion to approve?
Can we approve without a quorum?
Yeah, can we do anything without a quorum?
Not really.
Okay.
I mean, not officially, so we'll, everyone's reviewed the minutes, I assume. Those in the room find them acceptable. It seemed that was the direction we're going, but in terms of adoption, we'll just have to wait till July.
Do we
Okay.
have to officially declare on the record this is an informational meeting?
This is an informational meeting. We are lacking a quorum presently. For those at home.
For the vast.
Hi, Grill, we have a quorum.
Hello. Hello, Krill.
Take all that back, Eric. Take it all back.
There will be no information at this meeting.
Yeah, this is a non-informational meeting. Some action.
Krill, can you hear us?
Hello. Yeah, just
Hi.
reconnected.
Nice to see you.
Good to see everyone. Sorry I'm not in person.
That's
Yeah,
quite
we
all
are
right.
too, but that's okay.
I
All
think
right,
we
so
have a few
let's-
more later.
No, that's next door, I think.
So we'll try
Oh,
this
that's
again. So the meeting minutes from last meeting. John, making a motion.
Motion to approve?
Have a second?
Second.
Okay, Bill. Excellent. Okay. Next is citizen comments. Do we have any citizens to comment? Okay, moving on. Commission liaison report, please.
Let's see. Have it start, I don't know where we are with zoning yet. I assume that we're still putting together the RFP for the zoning refresh. I haven't seen it go out yet. What did we cover the other night? We are moving forward with some property maintenance issues, so I had a good discussion about it last night. The solicitor, myself, and the manager are going to put together some language around it and see, kind of craft something that happy to bring it back here to try to address some of the issues in terms of maintenance that we've found in other places that have worked. I think at some point we're gonna have somebody come in and speak at discussion sessions, so still working on that, but it is moving forward and that looks good. Gonna have a conversation. And my understanding is that it eventually goes to the magistrate from the municipality. So I've met with our magistrate on the issue once before. We're gonna meet again and just kind of get her take on things. And so yeah, that is moving forward. I'm trying to think if there's other things that are relevant to what we're doing. Nothing that strikes me in terms of resiliency or preservation. No, I think that's probably it. We didn't have a meeting 2 weeks ago, and last night's meeting wasn't that tough. So with all things, it's a little quieter in summer.
Fantastic.
Okay. So now we're gonna turn the meeting over to Eric for an Activate Uptown presentation.
Fantastic. Well, our techie is pulling it up. I'll start setting the table, and if you guys don't mind, I'm gonna stand up at the front just so I can point out some things, and I think it will be for a better presentation for those in the room and anyone watching at home. You won't get to see all of my gesticulations, but
We can describe them.
we can describe that. That's right. So again, this is the Activate Uptown. So this is a very high-level presentation. This is not the full report. So what I want to do tonight, my goal, my objective, is to give you a broad view of where we are with the Activate Uptown plan. The full report is under development right now by Paschik Associates, and we're getting opinions of cost by Gateway. So that's pulling together. My goal for the commission at this point is to do the presentation of the report with opinions of cost in July. Well, more than likely at the first meeting and maybe at the second meeting where I'll be going through that. And I'll share the full report once it's complete. But tonight, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna walk you through sort of an overview of the project area, and then get into a little bit of specifics and some of the key nodes that we focused on. The Activate Uptown plan is a riff or a reverberation from the Vibrant Uptown project, which is complete. While we were doing that, this is more as a refresh, and for those at home or might be watching at a future date. When we were planning that, we were looking at sidewalks, conduit lighting, really just the sidewalk, that public realm. But when we were doing that, it became very clear that we wanted to start putting some attention into some key nodes that we can potentially activate and improve in the guise of placemaking. So that's really what the Activate Uptown plan is. That's why we chose that moniker. It's about activating. So what we're looking at right now is a bird's eye view of the key nodes. And you'll see a few things. And just to orient everyone, obviously Washington Road. This is what we call Clock Tower Plaza. East End Brewing is located right there. What I affectionately refer to as the portal, which is the stairway, which leads down to Parse Way. This is the T station down here, Parse Way, Alfred Street, and then Clearview Common, which we're very familiar with. So those were the key areas we looked at. You'll notice letters here, A, B, C, D, E. That's the beginning attempts at starting to look at phasing this project. I don't have the opinions of cost in, but I'm going to say right now that it's going to be a big number. Especially for some of the things that I'm going to go over tonight. So that would mean that A means that's something that I think we can scale very easily, maybe even punch some things in this year. And there's a few other areas. So, Greg, let me keep going. So you're going to see some details here, but in the Clock Tower area, plaza area, looking to add some sunshades. We're looking to add a mosaic type mural, public art. And we're looking to activate it with the GoBo projectors, which the Mount Lebanon Partnership is going to be rolling out a public art project called Color Walk. We're looking to continue using that type of a device to create constantly changing murals. And you'll get to see a little bit of that there. You'll see some additional information on the portal, how we're looking to activate that, how we can better connect all the central business district to the light rail station, ways to try to improve Parse Way, one of which being, enclosures for the dumpsters, some treatments, some artistic treatments to fencing down in that area, bringing some of the design intent from Washington Road down there in terms of lighting and landscaping. And then carrying through to Alfred Street. We'll get to that there in a few moments. Why don't we advance so we can get into some of the detail? Does anybody have any questions about the broad overview? Okay, why don't we go to the next one? Because this really, then, here we go, bam. So, Clock Tower Plaza. Some of the things I already mentioned, sun shading, and keep in mind, this is high level conceptual. So when we go into actualizing this plan, we're going to be going back to the steering committee, of which Kirill sat on that, and Grace from this body, as well as members of the partnership, Port Authority, various other folks. So when you see this stuff, we're not married to this. This is just giving you the concepts. So again, the sunshades. We're looking to keep the PRT branding for the light rail station. So we want to draw people's attention to the fact that this is the gateway to the light rail station. So that graphic you see there is the PRT standard for their graphics. The mosaic public art that I mentioned was proposed for this very long bench seating that sits there along the planter. An informational, digital information booth. It's something we've talked about for years, and it's something that could roll out to other aspects of the district. But this seems like a good place to start. You could have the tea schedule there. You can have different events that are happening uptown, new businesses, things of that nature, to really kind of tie that in. when this was designed with Vibrant Uptown, it was really meant to be an open space and activated. So East End's already doing it with their public seating. But we've already had a few concerts here. We've had a few press releases here. County exec was just here about a month ago. So we're already starting to put that into play, but there are more things that can be done. And then wayfinding signage. So that's really what's happening at Clock Tower Plaza, and that's why I mentioned that's fairly scalable. That's something that we could potentially punch some of this stuff in now. When we get into the portal, that's where things start to, in my opinion, start to sizzle. Because that's where we're really getting into some what I consider, not that that's not interesting, but this is where you really can get creative. So one of the notions is, so it's form and function. We really want to, it's a dark passageway. So we want to define artistic and creative ways to light that. And so you can see here that we're looking to do some uplighting and accentuating the barrel vault here, and this is called an oculum. I like to use big words, so that's the architectural term for that hole in the wall, but that's called an oculum. You can see that the railing is downlit. That provides additional lighting, but it also just gives the space a warmer feel. So there's a public safety element to that, but also just an aesthetic. The addition of bike rentals, obviously we're always encouraging folks to use all modes of transportation, and it's difficult if you're gonna ride your bike on the T to Uptown or want to take your bike to somewhere from Uptown to get up and down. So the rental would ease that passage. The mural here was originally proposed to just be a static mural with paint, the same old, but this is where we want to employ the Gobo projectors. Those can be updated constantly, so you can always have a refreshed experience in the portal. Replacing the janky fencing that's currently in there. So really giving it a complete facelift, so form and function, really giving this now something that's exciting, something you want to walk to. And that's why we're calling it, and I've been calling it the portal, instead of just a stairway, because it's really a transcending from one place to another, and we want it to be a full experience. So any questions on these design elements? All right, let's go to the next, please. This is where we're getting into what I keep calling the big idea, because it's going to be a big number, but it's also a big change. So just to orient everybody, the current footprint of Clearview Common essentially ends here. Right behind, this is the pavilion. Right up around here is where the current fountain is. And then you have a series of terraces. People don't use Clearview Common. They just don't. Now, we use it when we have events, but you rarely see people there. You occasionally see some teenagers or somebody sitting around the fountain, but it's not really fulfilling its mission. And we want to change that, and hence what we're proposing here. So before I get into the big idea, there are elements of this that, again, can be punched in. So there's short-term, mid-term, and long-term. And when I do the full presentation to the commission, we'll be really teasing that out. But there are some very simple elements here that we can do now. For example, the furniture that's there. That was bought at Target during COVID. I can't believe it's still there, but it is. We've had to do some repairs, so we're looking to invest in some better furniture, and that's something we can do potentially next year. You can imagine Adirondack-style chairs. If you've traveled or you've been in the Strip district, you don't have to go that far. What the Strip is doing, that's a lot of placemaking type stuff. So those are things we can do short-term. Sunshades, all that kind of stuff can be baked into the short-term planning. When we get into the big idea, you're seeing some new stuff. First of all, most importantly, an expansion of the park footprint. And what that entails is use of what's currently called the Alfred Lot, which has about 18 spaces down there. Extending Clearview Common to the north, there's a series of on-street parking spaces here. So pushing the envelope north and seizing that, and really doubling the size of the park. It's also putting this at grade, so that's where cost comes in. We're going to have to, there's a retaining structure that needs built, there's fill, all sorts of things that the engineers will have to figure out. That's why they're engineers. But some of the elements, you're gonna see, I want to see if I want to cover anything else while we're at this bird's eye view. Alfred Street is proposed in the big idea to go one way up the hill. So coming from Shady Drive and Parse Way, coming up, that allows us to have a better pedestrian experience. What you're not seeing on this is eliminating the curbs so that the cartway, which is just a fancy term for road, is flush with the sidewalk. So you're really creating more of a pedestrian scale above and beyond, Clearview Common. So when there's events and you shut things down, so if you come to Final Friday on Friday, you'll see that we shut down Alfred Street. And I'll use the word janky again, it's kind of a janky situation. We put up some traffic barriers, fire truck pulls up, Sparky gets out, that's fine, but there's curbs, it's just a road that we close down. This is proposing changing that feel and the vibe. So again, eliminating the curb, changing the material palette so that when you are in the area, it feels different than Washington Road or Shady Drive. So you're really changing the psychographic experience of the area. We've talked about adding railing up to the existing building here. We heard from a lot of folks that they have a hard time getting up and down Alfred Street. It's a tremendous grade, it's about 14%. So that would be something. Terracing some little bench seating along the sidewalk there. It's a fairly wide sidewalk on the north side. So you could have some little oasis points where you could just sit down and take a rest or enjoy the uptown, the action, people watch, that type of thing. Additional trees, greenery, all of that type of thing. And then you'll see additional water features. Water is important. It creates an ambient noise to soften the hum and the buzz of State Route 19. It just softens the experience. And you're really going to get a better sense of that when we go to the next slide. But before we do that, I just want to make sure there's nothing that I'm missing. Oh yeah, swings, which you can see in this particular picture here with the guy sitting on a swing. These aren't the swings that we all had in grade school where we would try to launch off them, at least I did, you try to get as high as you could. These are a little more pedestrian in how they swing. It's really more of an opportunity to sit down, have some motion, and chat with folks, enjoy the band and whatever else might be going on at the time. But it's also good for folks that have sensory issues, autism and things like that, to have these types of tactile elements in the design. So we're being considerate of that. Public art, we're introducing that. We're also introducing some additional green space, just lawn space, to be able to put out a blanket and just hang out. And when you see the next slide, you'll really get a picture of what this all means. So if we could just advance to the next slide. So boom, now this is giving you a three-dimensional view of what we're talking about. Again, the swings at the back end, the rail line is here. This is a rock runnel fountains circumstance. Similar to what you see down around PNC Park, but not, that one you can kind of sit down in. This one you could maybe do that, but it's designed a little bit different. There's the other water feature where we are proposing eliminating the current fountain because it has a series of problems and it's also just ugly. But we're looking to bring it yet another, imagine a cascade. We're trying to seize the topography. So water goes one way, down. So we're trying to capture that and create the sense that you're in that sort of dynamic circumstance. The pavilion is not moving. We're going to keep that as the fulcrum of the site. So when bands play, we may have to reorient how they set up, but we're not. But that would stay as it is. But you can see with the expansion of the Clearview Common area, this is someplace you actually would want to go, and someplace you not only want to go, but spend some time. Are there any questions on this? All right, why don't we just go to the next one? So this just provides some additional viewscapes of what it could look like, and you can sense that already just from these conceptuals. It's a radical redesign, hence the term that I keep using, big idea, because there's a lot involved with this. There's a lot of engineering. There's a lot, and that's.
Grading is awesome. I mean, the fact that you're going to expand I don't know if it's north or south or east or west, but, and that you've got.
That's east.
Okay, so expanding east feels really good. Now, the corner where all the steps and the fountain are now, will that get? I know you said the fountain is potentially going away, but that, as your word is, janky. That's a little hard to navigate right now.
It is, and again, I mean, it's Mount Lebanon, not flat Lebanon, so we have to deal with the topography that God gave us. But this gives you that view. So this is Washington Road up here, and you're looking down. So this over here would be that step fountain
Sure.
over on this side. And the way that it opens up and leads you into the site, you can see all the way to the back. So again, there's the pavilions, sun shading, new furniture, this type of thing. And you can start to see a little bit, you get a little flavor, a little taste of what's happening to Alfred Street with, zero curb, bollards, that type of thing. So you're not just transforming Clearview Common, you're transforming the entirety of the true center of Uptown. I mean, Clearview Common is the heartbeat from an urban planning perspective of the Uptown district. So you're embracing it, you're celebrating it, and you're making it something that people want to interact with and not pass through, which is basically right now what it is.
If these are stairs right here, is there some sort of accessible, I assume, accessible entrance from Alfred?
Yeah, could you go back,
there?
Greg, please? I don't know if that could maybe go back another one to this one. Yeah, so one of the things I didn't touch on, there's a lot to touch on. I'm just trying to give the high notes here. But yes, I mean, so if you've been on that intersection, and I think we probably all have, it's difficult to navigate right. So there is some feathering, there's some finessing of that grade. I mean, we're not going to be able to change it completely, but this does give us an opportunity to start to play a little bit with that grade and feather it out. I don't want to say eliminate it. I'm going to use the word feather and finesse. But it does provide that opportunity on both sides, but it's particularly pronounced here. So that's a very astute question.
So would it be possible in that place then, going in that same direction? If you wanted to get vendors in there with little food carts, not necessarily a truck, but, I've been in cities where, they have vendors with smaller food carts at lunchtime or in the evening or whatever. Is that feasible in there?
100%. And another astute question. We have a smart class today.
Is that a driveway of sorts?
Yeah, so this is an alley, and to this date, so again, just the current footprint ends right around here. There are 2 handicap parking spaces there. It's the only place that we could legally put handicap parking. So a lot of people don't realize that. But you can park back here. There's for handicap, for ADA accessible parking. It would be here roughly. So this is an active alley. And cars currently do pull up here, and we have bands set up, things like that. So that would remain. And there has been talk about potentially also improving the alley at some point, but that's not high on the list right now, but it's something that could be done. But yes, but the way that this is designed, and there's another image that I didn't put in the slide deck that shows vendors set up here. Because one of the challenges we have with the farmers market, people are like, why don't you just put it down at Clearview Common? Because nobody wants to be there. It's that simple, So, it's below grade, all of these things. It's just not a pleasant place to be, and the vendors feel shoehorned. But yes, you could get some food carts in there, the farmer's market.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be a nice place during lunch times or whatever, or holiday weekends and things.
Yeah, and we've tried that. When we did have a food cart at one time years ago, we had a hot dog truck. Didn't last long.
The thing I would think about is just a little more shade in there the thing that keeps me out of Commons is the sun and the heat.
Yeah.
It just feels, kind of barren and open, and the more opportunity to have, to bring your, to buy a lunch at a place in Uptown, come walk, sit down, have a nice quiet place to have it outdoors, not have to be along, Washington Road and the traffic, that would be a nice little escape.
It would, and it doesn't show up particularly well here, but these are sunshades. You can introduce more of that. And again, when we get into, this is conceptual, so when you get into what's called schematic design, that's when you really start to get into the rubber hitting the road and that type of thing. But, there is, sunshades are definitely there. There is additional greenery and trees and things of that nature to provide shade. But there would be open places. This is Pittsburgh after all, not Vegas. So, there's a lot of days when it's not sunny. So, it does offer that. This here is just sort of a placeholder for potentially public art, interactive type public art was what folks were talking about. And again, the design intent. There's sort of an argument in the steering committee about Clearview Common using the same light. Parsway, we would use the same light standard that you see on Washington Road right now, but this maybe should have different light standards because it's a park, it's a different place and should have a different palette. And, but for ease sake, they're just showing the same lamps that we have. But there's lots of opportunities here for uplighting and really making this special on a number of different levels.
And, to your point, and I don't think that it comes through in this photo either, but the addition of quite a few tables and chairs up front. So I think that's the idea, is like there should be a place to get your
To hang out.
lunch or your coffee or whatever and be able to, a place just to go at any time of the day. And I think that's pretty central to making this work.
With that said, would there be power,
Oh, yeah.
like accessible for the public?
That's always a debate in urban planning circles because it tends to lead to loitering sometimes, which you don't want. But it also is an essential use in the 21st century to be able to charge a phone and things like that. So the answer, in my opinion, would be yes. I mean, it already does have power. We've had to shut it off on occasion because of issues we've had with kids. But it would, and there's enough power here. And we used to do something called Ultra Party. We had you could power Tokyo. I mean, there's so much juice now in this, the power's not an issue. Currently, there's a series of outlets. There would be outlets here, throughout the area. I would imagine here you could have some of those sort of charging stations, aesthetically pleasing charging stations, not quite what they have at South Hills Village. I don't know if there is such a thing as an aesthetically pleasing charging station, but we're gonna be the first, we're on the bleeding edge of that.
We'll hide them in bushes.
Yeah, that's it. But, there's a lot, and that's, so I'm just trying to give you digestible chunks. Does anybody have any questions about that? I just wanted to give everyone because I've been talking about this a lot, but I wanted you to see some pictures.
Yeah, it was great.
So this is pretty much the culmination. Again, full report coming out. There'll be a presentation to the commission. I'm just not exactly sure when, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be July 8th, I think, the first meeting in July. So anyone's welcome to attend. It'll be in this room, a discussion session, probably about 15, 20 minutes. And I'll be a little bit more succinct with my presentation. This is more just to give you the broad strokes.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks, Eric.
Cool, I know we have other things on the agenda, so I don't want to bogart the meeting.
Excellent. Okay, so thank you, Eric. Next up is the Economic Business District.
So, sorry, I have a
Hi, Carol.
question. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Eric, I want to follow up with you on the next steps for this group as part of that project. Do we need to extend our support, vote on our support? Do we need to propose items for budget for next year and then share our support here? Anything this group needs to?
Not at this time. I can't really ask for action on something I don't have the information to provide you to make those decisions. I don't have the numbers. So until I have the opinions of cost and the sort of the final report at this point from this group, no, I don't need anything at the moment. When I present to the commission, I fully expect to get some direction from the elected body on things that they want to see prioritized, and that'll help me to drill this down. My guesstimation, this is a guesstimation, I want to really put a bold underline with that, is that the totality of this project, is going to be 2 to 3 times the expense of the Vibrant Uptown project, which was $4.2 million. That's all in. That's, the whole enchilada. That's my guesstimate. I just want to repeat that. So when I start to get the opinions of cost, which are broken down into those phases, Kirill, then you can start to slice and dice the buffet. What you want to pick at and what you don't. So, right now, I don't know what's, I know what's on the buffet. I just don't know how much it costs.
I have a different question. As you were talking about the potential costs, and I know it's a guesstimate, sort of running parallel in my mind anyway, is the south garage.
Mhm.
And I know that's probably in a different stage, but as a municipality, how will we sort of measure if they're at different stages and times?
Well, that's something, that's a conversation I'll be having with the commission when I do my presentation. I have my thoughts on it and feelings and so, that has to be weighed out. I mean, and there's a number of factors related to the garage that are related to this, but not related to this. Right now, for example, we're looking at some different opportunities to take care of residents in the business, our leaseholders. So we're exploring some, what I'll say are, I think are fairly creative potential solutions. So if there are 10 steps, we're probably on step 2. We just had a meeting today about one of the concepts we're vetting that requires some partnerships. So we're in that process. So the way that I want to present this plan is with agility, so that there are elements of it that we can implement now. And a lot of this stuff that we saw with the portal and Clock Tower Plaza, to me, are implementable in the next year, 2 years, 26 budget, that type of thing. That to me is a no-brainer, low-hanging fruit. I would definitely swing hard at that. Some of the other ones are, there is a balance of use, need, and various other things. So, and cost, so there's a lot of things coming with it. So again, my goal when I present to the commission is to have I use the buffet analogy again, have the buffet set up in a manner that there are appetizers and full course meals and desserts and these types of things that you can plug and play and pick, that will provide a substantive advancement of the concepts, but also be mindful of budgetary and other factors.
Last one, sorry.
why we're here.
Do you anticipate that anyone like PRT would potentially be able to invest in any of what we're talking about?
Well, yes and no. I mean, PRT, first of all, and I want to say that because, again, for anyone at home or watching this at a future date, PRT was part of our steering committee, is part of our steering committee. So there are various factors with PRT, and before I answer your question, so like the turn rate, the Alfred Street concept, does that articulated buses, these are the double buses, not the British style double buses, but the long ones with the accordion in the middle. Can that make that turn? The answer is yes, but we'll need to do further analysis. But so that, we've had them at the table for those very factors. Also, Parsway is primarily owned by PRT, and I could go on. In terms of budget, we would certainly want them to be a financial partner on this project. Everybody should be aware, and if you're not aware, look it up, but PRT is having some hard times. But like any agency or authority or government body, there are operating budgets and capital budgets. And so capital and operating are different. So they may be struggling hard on some of the operational stuff, but may be able to pull together to partner with us on some improvements. In earlier meetings, if you go back and watch them on video, it wasn't that long ago, we were talking about how excited we were that we were going to be a transit node for PRT.
Yes.
Well, things done changed. And so now we're, is that going to be the case? Is that not going to be the case? So there's still a lot of question marks that are dangling. But there are capital dollars. So for things on Parsway in particular, that especially any like sidewalk improvements, things like that, we would hope that they would partner. But if the municipality wants to lead and wants to get things going and wants to make certain improvements, we have that ability. And that's also part of that plan. Parsway is long. Do we really need to spend a ton of valuable dollars on, say, the north and south extremities of it, or should we focus more on that connective piece when you come up off the light rail platform and you're going up to the street? So triaging where you put those investments. So,
To dovetail what Eric's saying too, I think that it's been, pretty well established in community surveys that this type of thing is a high priority, that residents want to see better public space, that they want to see more gathering places, and so I think that there's pretty clear evidence that something like this is how local taxpayers would like to see their dollars spent.
It would, and whatever eventually happens to the dentist would certainly tie into that space.
It very well could.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what happens, whether it's what they're thinking about now or some other idea later.
Something will happen there,
Something
Chad.
will happen, and I think something will happen. But I can see a tie into that space if it becomes like an active space again.
Well, and that's important. Uptown has all of the chess pieces in place with the exception of a few. One, I think, is really good public spaces. We don't. We don't have that. So that's a missing element. That's something we can control. The entertainment is the other area I think that we're currently lacking. We've got the food. We've got phenomenal retail that's now starting to ratchet up. And we've just opened up the Italian leather shop very recently. Tostique's open. Yeah, all these great things are fantastic, but we're missing that Saturday date night kind of thing. We're missing the movie, dinner and a show. But I something will happen. I'm going to be optimistic on that.
Has the municipality commented to the PRT anything about the fact that their new plan is going to cut off the western part of the municipality from any kind of public transportation availability into downtown or the rest of Mount Lebanon?
Yeah, I mean,
Commission did pass a resolution basically saying that, we fully support PRT funding. I mean, it's somewhat, what do you do? I mean, we don't have much ability. All we can say is we don't want to change. We strongly support PRT. It's a bad situation.
Harrisburg needs to step up. I mean, this is really in the state legislature and the governor's office, and they need the funding. There's a strong campaign statewide. It's not just PRT. I mean, SEPTA. I mean, this is a Commonwealth-wide problem, and it's a serious one. And we're good friends with PRT.
Any other questions for Eric? No?
I'm
Okay.
here all night.
Okay, so next up on the agenda is Economic Business District Committee. Kirill, can you help us out here?
So the subcommittee did not meet, unfortunately. Lots of things happening with the members, so we couldn't find time to meet. We are aiming to meet in the next 30 days. That's the goal for us. Last time we discussed lots of potential projects for us for this year, for the next 12 months. So we want to follow up in the upcoming subcommittee. And then I was going to call out lots of different things that are happening in town, but I think Eric could do a better job than me. There are Final Fridays that are happening. Markets have started, which is great. So lots of things are happening.
I'll cover that up in my staff liaison room.
Great.
Thanks, Guru.
Okay.
Yeah, did I miss anything? Or is that it for us?
No, I think you hit everything, Kirill.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank
so
you.
we really need a meeting and lots of things to follow up there.
Agreed. All right, Phil, and the Historic Preservation Committee.
Yeah, last time we talked about contacting legislators about all the funding cuts to the Historic Preservation Fund and its impact on things like our historic district. And we got some feedback from Ian about the way to do this is going through the commission, if the commission would make a statement. But what we really need to be working on and is coming up with something that will inform legislators about what the Historic Preservation Fund actually does and how it has benefited Mount Lebanon, because they don't have the kind of information they need. They don't know what the Historic Preservation Fund does. And so when it comes, right now, they're not talking about changing the legislation, they're just slashing the funding. If you get rid of the funding, it's going to impact Mount Lebanon, it's going to impact a lot of things. So right now, I need to get on board with drafting a document sort of bulleting what are the specific ways in which the Historic Preservation Fund has impacted Mount Lebanon. And, rather than saying advocate, well, you need to support this legislation, that's not what we're doing. We're saying, look, here's what it does, so you know what this money's for. Because a lot of times legislators, they've got so much on their plates, they don't know sometimes what these things are. They're coming up for a vote at the House of Representatives. Well, millions of dollars, well, what's it do? Well, they have no idea. So I found from my experience, it's helpful often to contact, if not the legislators directly, their staff, so that they know there's somebody that can help them with information, give them information that they need. So it's sort of like educating. So I'm going to work on a bullet point thing that we can use, have the commission then, go through the commission, to them send to selected legislators, say, hey, this fund has been helping us in these ways. You need to know this. Just something, a quick single page bullet point, that's the sort of thing they need. So that's what we're working on now.
Fantastic. I would just recommend, if you haven't already, I know you know Bill Callahan, and if you don't, I would just reach out to him, see if he has any additional thoughts. I'm sure he's all over this.
Yes, because he's funded by this.
Yeah, so I'm sure he's hyper aware.
Partially funded by it anyway.
Yes, I'm sure he's on top of it.
Okay, excellent. So next on the list is Sustainability and Local Ecology Committee. Chet.
Thank you. I promised last meeting that I would have a recommendation report on the issue of stormwater management, and so I did prepare a presentation. If we could pull that up, I'd like to kind of walk through that.
Excellent.
Okay, great. So I call this proposal Roof to Roots. Although we know the stormwater runs off of lots of impervious surfaces, but they don't have that same alliteration.
I love the title.
So
I don't know what the rest says, but this is fantastic.
So anyway, but the idea is to incentivize our residents to make improvements on their properties so that the water either doesn't get into the storm system or gets there at a slower pace so that we don't have to make as large of investments as we need to make in that in this area. So if you go next, please. Stormwater is one of our charges. This is in the long-term plan, the 10-year plan, and it falls under item number 9, stormwater, and that comes right from the plan. So this is within our purview. I just want to make sure that we're not running amok, of course, and no pun intended. And also, don't worry about the photo. That is not actual damage. That comes from our friends at ChatGPT and DALL-E. And so there's a little photo credit there. So I don't want you to worry if you see any damage or anything. No one's getting hurt. No animals are being injured, anything. But anyway, so it is in our purview to look at this issue. We've been asked to do that. So please, next slide. So since 2011, Mount Lebanon has assessed residences and businesses a fee because there's huge investments that have to be made. In fact, our township was one of the very first to move down that path, but now most, if not all, communities have some kind of fee. For a residential fee, and that's what I'm focusing on tonight, just residential. Right now, it's a little over $10 a month. It will rise based on the board's actions. So ultimately, after 2028, it will just move with inflation because things keep going. So there is a real cost to residents, but it's a real cost to the township because we have to do this. Next, please. Now, right now, if you're a residential, if you're a homeowner, resident here in Mount Lebanon, there are several ways that you can get credits against this fee. You can get a one-time credit between $25 and $50. It's calculated on the size of the barrel, and you can get that once. If you're a larger scale, like projects for commercial or for multifamily, you can do a large project, but it's the kind of project that requires a professional engineer to sign off on it. So this is not the kind of thing typically a homeowner would do, even if they qualify. And then the last thing is there's an education credit for schools. So these are all great, but I thought there might be an opportunity to do more. So I started to look at what else is happening. And so in the city of Pittsburgh, they also have a fee, and they have this very complicated calculation. It's, in fact, it's called an ERU, Equivalent Residential Unit. And they actually kind of look at how much paving and roof, et cetera, you have. We don't get it that complicated. But anyway, they have credits also. So they have a one-time $40 credit for rain barrels. But what they do have that we don't have is that if you install something called a rain garden, and there's some other kinds of features that are similar in intent, you can reduce your fee up to 50% ongoing, not a one-time, but on a regular basis, if you can demonstrate that you've developed a facility that will capture 3/4 of an inch of rain runoff off of your impervious surface. So, and I have a friend actually who has gone through the process of it. It's a lot of paperwork for them. But basically, for a typical house, I asked our friends at ChatGPT if a typical house in the Pittsburgh area, if you had a typical rain, what would it take? You're talking about, if you back up just a second, sorry. You'd need about a 16 by 16 foot rain garden or some kind of similar feature. So it's not huge, it's not like out of question. You don't have to dig up your entire yard, but so it's feasible. So the next slide. Dormont, our neighbors in Dormont, they also offer the one-time credit, but they have a plan for rain gardens that you can get 25% off of your ongoing fee in perpetuity if you can demonstrate that you've retained 25% of the roof runoff for your property. And so, it's not, if you go ahead next, so that's also not huge. You're talking about something about 9 by 8 for, again, a typical house. Now, that doesn't mean it's the same as the driveway or whatever, but this is just for a house roof. So it doesn't, again, have to be huge if they are done well. So next slide, please. Rain gardens are not flower beds. Okay, they may have flowers in them, they may have good plantings, but they are engineered a little more than that because they are designed to retain temporarily at least a certain amount of water. Typically 4 to 8 inches deep. They're prepared with certain types of soil and ponding material that will absorb the water. So there are criteria out there that you can develop that say this is what you should do. So it's just not putting a flower bed in. Not that I'm anything against flower beds, I like them. But a typical 15 to 30 square foot rain garden takes about the same, it can absorb as much water as you get off 100 square feet of concrete pad. So again, you're getting more than a one-to-one kind of benefit from this. So what are the benefits if you go, try to promote rain gardens? So again, next. Obviously, you reduce stormwater runoff. You improve water quality because you get this water filtering effect. It does help recharge the groundwater, and we've had issues with that. Beautification, biodiversity, obviously, you're gonna get more flowers, more biodiversity. It is a very cost-effective way to help reduce runoff. There's a lot of data out there. And finally, it fits into our goals of climate resilience. Breaking up just, any kind you're breaking up concrete or other kinds of areas that absorb heat, all the better. So one last place, this is in Washington, not as local. They have a very aggressive program called River Smart. They will, if a resident gives them $100, they will, they give $100 if you purchase and plant trees on residential and commercial property. Next. They will give you up to $1,000 for rain barrels at $2 per barrel, $3,000 for rain gardens, and up to $6,000 if you replace impermeable surfaces with either vegetation or permeable pavers. And as much as I love sidewalks and paving and stuff, Mount Lebanon has a lot of paving. And there are places where maybe we don't need as much. So I have this set for questions. I have one more slide where I'll go to what I would recommend at our next meeting. I'll give you time to think about it and get the rest of the board to look at. Back up before, well, anyway, I just want to give you time for questions on all that since I ripped through it pretty quickly trying to stay on time. So that's my proposal, is that we, or what we think about first is that we need to do more as a community to incentivize residents to take action on their own properties before the water gets into the storm system. Because once it's there, it becomes very expensive to deal with. We've had to invest a lot in it. So any questions about what I ran through?
Where do people get this information?
This information? The internet.
No, I mean, Mount Lebanon doesn't have.
Well, there's a little bit on the website. That's how I found out about what we have.
Yeah.
So there's a limited amount of information. And some are great detailed. When you go to the city, it's not the city of Pittsburgh, but the Water and Sewer Authority officially, a very complicated program. Reams of pages going through details on how you fill out long forms. I think other places are a little simpler. You do have to document this stuff. I mean, if we would go down this path, there is some additional work for staff, because they would have to, people would have to fill out a form, something has to be developed to fill it out. They'd have to verify that in fact, this isn't just, a patch of grass that you got your rototiller out and dug up and, threw a couple of flower seeds in. But, so there is some work to it. There would be some revenue hit, obviously, but I don't think it's huge. Even if we didn't get a ton of people to do it, in terms of making official rain gardens, a program like this would attract the kind of attention for people to start to think, should I put down more of those pavers, or maybe not? Or maybe I should take some of them up, because that's one of my plans is previous owner put a huge back patio in. It's like a pickleball court. I can't possibly use it all. But every time it rains, it goes into the little drain and off it goes. So anything that, would help not only get people to do this, but also bring awareness to this idea that maybe we should stop it before it gets to the street, before it gets to the sewer, wouldn't be a bad idea.
I think it's fantastic. There was an organization in Seattle, I think I may have mentioned it to you, Chad, I don't recall. It's called D-Pave. And so it was a nonprofit that started, and the whole notion was eliminating useless or over-the-top paving in circumstances like you mentioned, and so they created a volunteer network, and then there were some incentives. I mean, it may have folded up now, it's been a long time, but it's a great thing to do, because there is a lot of unnecessary concrete in a lot of places, our homes.
Oh, yeah.
But other places too, and anytime you can eliminate that, you're eliminating that runoff.
So the next slide, if you go to that area. So what I would suggest is that, next time we vote to, as a resolution, to recommend to the board, to the commissioners, that they develop an enhanced residential storm water fee credit program that would include at least a second rain barrel, maybe $50, that's very cost effective. A program to get incentives for installing and maintaining qualified rain gardens and similar features. And if people can show existing rain gardens exist that actually divert water, I think we should give them credit. And also a program I think is really important to replace anything to credit to replace impervious surfaces, with vegetation or, there are pervious pavers that becomes more expensive. But it just starts to take action, our own responsibility, because in the end, we're the ones responsible for the rainwater runoff. It's our homes, our driveways, our sidewalks, that's where it's coming from. So anyway, that's what I'd ask you to think about for next month's meeting, so that we all have time to think about it and get it on our agenda as an action item.
Just one of the things, and you're absolutely right, I don't think that, do you think there would be value also in maybe providing a page on our website or something that, a resource guide or links to something like that, rather than just, we have a stormwater fee, here's what it is, pay it, and then we put sewers in over here, or we do this or that. I don't know, I haven't visited that page yet, but I don't think it has much.
It's not, I wouldn't call it a resource page, but it wasn't designed to be that, and to be fair, there are so many things you could educate people on, that, we could keep the township staff going constantly, just updating the webpage. But I think it's a good topic because we can, as individuals, have a significant impact. And just sometimes people just don't think about it. Oh, gee, I shouldn't put the more pavers down. I don't need them. I just gave away a bunch because I don't want them. They're hot. And this time of year anyway. So, yeah. So what I would say is next month I will put forward a resolution to just do that, to have us officially recommend to the board that and we'll be happy. I'll be happy to work with staff. I didn't develop a whole entire policy, but I think the staff would prefer to do that. They want us dumping a big document on their desk.
Do we have rules for placement of rain barrels? I was shamed when I tried to put one in the front of my house because my house happens to sit close to the road.
I'm not aware of any, that there might be somewhere in a.
I don't, that's nothing I've ever heard of, Elaine. I know, somebody may not like it, but.
I was to hide it
Who
or put
shamed
it
you?
on the other side. It was someone related to the municipality.
Interesting.
Well, I know that trash and trash receptacles, which is not a rain barrel, I understand
Right,
that, but
right.
that needs to be, or is to be screened.
Like you couldn't have an ugly one, like those like green ones with the black bands around it. You had to have like a.
There's some very expensive, nice little ones.
Yes.
Yeah, because they can cost hundreds of dollars. You can get them for
Yeah.
$50, $60, $70, or
Right.
you can spend hundreds.
Right.
on
Some people like to make their own, they like to so there's
Yeah.
A million different ways to do it.
But they, and what's nice about rain barrels is one, they hold back water, two, they give you a source of water when it's,
Yeah.
when it's really hot and dry, you don't have to be pulling more water, so. As long as they're operated right, they have to screen for mosquitoes, et cetera.
But just to refresh everybody's memory, so next month Chet's gonna make that, I guess, call for a motion, then what happens, just so everybody knows, staff, meaning myself or Greg, will then forward that to the municipal manager. So the way that everything gets channeled through all the advisory boards is through sort of an interface system. So then what that does is the manager looks at it and then he deliberates where that gets channeled. So I just wanted to refresh everybody's memory. That's what we did with the vacant.
Vacancy.
Yeah, I don't think we
Big
plan on storming the next commissioners meeting.
Right, I understand, Jen. I just wanted to, we haven't done too many yet, so I just want to kind of keep it present in people's minds.
Well, Chet, that was well done, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. So we're at the staff liaison report.
Yes, and we're also, just to call time, we're at 5 to 7. So I'll keep it brief. Kirill mentioned some things that are coming up, and I alluded to it a little bit earlier. So the first final Friday, that's alliteration for you, is this Friday. So if you're around, please stop up. Hopefully the weather cooperates. The hours have changed as well, so we're back to 6 to 9. If you remember First Fridays from a number of years ago, they used to be 6 to 9. So we went back to that. So it's a reggae band, Reggae World Beat band. They're pretty good, if you like, especially if you like what I consider the classic era of reggae, the 70s. They kind of riff off of that. So there'll be other things, a lot of businesses participate, so please come up. And then it's not July yet, but there's going to be a podcast. I was just on it this morning with WYP. So the July final Friday is actually also a WYP neighborhood concert series. So there's going to be 3 bands there. So I'll give you more information next month because we're not there yet. Something I want to, I think we all know the Toastique opened up, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so I'm not going to, that's done. There's a few other vacancies that we're working on. I'm not really at a, still can't discuss a couple things, but we've got some good progress. I already alluded to the Italian leather shop that opened up. Please go check that out. Ms. Hudak opened that up, and there's also a story in the Mount Lebanon magazine on that, which should be hitting your mailboxes soon. So I'll let you read the magazine. Laura will be happy about that. And then I just wanted to refresh everybody's memory. This is sort of a homework assignment. We need to be developing the work plan for the various committees. So when you're having your subcommittee meetings, do what you will. My recommendation is, well, one, it's not a recommendation. You shall look at the comp plan. Again, that's our North Star document, right? But I don't know, pick 3 things. Pick whatever it is. Chet just did a great example of, say, referenced it and expounded on it. So we want to put that into a functioning work plan because every year we need to do the annual report, and the annual report really ought to be derived from the work plan. So at the next meeting, if you want to think about what you want in that work plan, and it can be, a reiteration of something that you're working on now. So, in the economic development, it could be the vacant property ordinance. So you may want to pick off something else. The sustainability board may find a few other things that it'd like to tackle or start to put some attention to. Just want to get that concept. We want to get that memorialized in a formal work plan. And don't be afraid by the term formal. Just we want to get it on a document so that we're sourcing it and then we're reporting on that in a year's time. So I just wanted to bring that up in my report.
Excellent. That also covered old business, so thank you.
So yeah, I'm just
Okay, well done, sir.
like kill one bird.
Justin.
Yeah, so, school finished for underclassmen on June 6th, so everyone's out of the building now, which is great. Seaton's getting air conditioning, which I had to miss out on, but oh well.
When you come back, you could just not go to college.
I could just stay there, live in the walls, I guess. There was one senior boy, his name was Brady Walsh, he was named the 2025 Ultimate Frisbee All-City Team, so good for him. And then the new Bishop of Pittsburgh is a Seton alumni as well. It's
Oh, really?
Bishop Mark Ekman, so
That's cool.
he's a nice guy, I do like him. Other than that, that's really it. There's currently a waiting list for incoming freshmen. So the Seton building can hold supposedly 550 kids, and last year's class was 130. So you do the math on that. So it's getting kind of up to the max right there.
Right.
So
Wow, that is Interesting. All right, thanks for sharing. So, last on the list here is any new business. Does anybody have any new business to discuss?
I have Skittles.
I'm
Okay,
driving.
That is
all right.
quite the development.
So just a reminder, our next meeting is scheduled on Wednesday, July 23rd at 6 p.m. And a reminder that there will be a Zoom webinar component so that anybody can attend virtually if needed. So now I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you.